This game was provided to me by Sony. You can achieve mouse-like precision with motion controls. Motion controls, also known as Gyro Aim, have been present since day one in Helldivers 2. Now, every PC and PlayStation player can use their wrists in conjunction with the analog sticks to aim and enjoy mouse-like precision on their controllers without the need for aim assist. Still, I know what you're thinking, and I already answered that in my Gyro Beginner's Guide, link in the description. Why would I want to use that? Well, Gyro can vastly improve your gaming experience by being the controller's mouse. Basically, Gyro will follow your physical movements the same way that a mouse would. Because, I don't know if you noticed, but only a small list of games implement this feature correctly. And now, Helldivers 2 joins the list. This is very exciting because now you can more easily exploit enemy weak points, for example. But what platforms support this? PS5 and PC. On PC, make sure to disable Steam input to make use of this feature. With the DualShock 4, this only works with a USB connection. Usually, I would say that you can use DS for Windows to emulate a DualShock 4 to play with different controllers, but I couldn't make this work. So if someone's watching and knows how to make it work, please leave a comment. Okay, but how do you enable Gyro? Just go to Options, Controller, and in the middle of the controller settings, you will see the motion control settings. To activate Gyro Aim, just select when you want Gyro to be active. Do you want Gyro to be active only while aiming? Only while scoped? Or on all the time? For beginners, I recommend using Gyro only while aiming, but personally I like to play with Gyro always on. Besides the motion sensor enable mode, the only other setting that you will need to worry about is the motion sensor sensitivity. Motion sensor sensitivity does follow the natural sensitivity scale, which means that the rotation of the controller in the game can be perfectly aligned. This is what we call one-to-one move. You can multiply the value up to 20. So if I set it to 4, for example, one full rotation of the controller in real life will do 4 full rotations in game. So the weird thing is that this slider is cut in half, so 0.5 sensitivity equals to one-to-one movement and so on. But it does make sense if we suppose that the game doesn't rely that much on aiming while not ADSing, and while you are ADSing, the sensitivity is cut in half by default. So if you are using Gyro only while aiming, then this slider makes perfect sense. This is useful because now you can copy the same sensitivity that you are already used to in other games. For beginners, I recommend leaving everything as default and using Gyro only while aiming and setting the sensitivity to 2. Also, don't forget to disable sticky aim. This is basically aim assist, but since Gyro works just like a mouse, we don't need that at all. Essentially, this is all that you need to know to get the best Gyro experience. But what about all of these other settings? We have a lot of sliders here, but the fact that there isn't a separate section for gyro configuration tells me that some settings that should only apply to the analog stick and not the gyro are in fact affecting both, such as invert look and invert scope, and aim sensitivity and scope sensitivity. Gyro settings should always be separate from analog stick settings. Hopefully they can fix this in the future. Aim sensitivity and scope sensitivity. When set to 1, the hipfire sensitivity will be the same as the ADS sensitivity. This is useful to keep gyro consistent, but you can also decrease this to make gyro more stable but slower while zooming. The default value is set to 0.5, which is pretty good, but I prefer to play with the same gyro sensitivity all the time. Motion sensor acceleration doesn't seem to work. Motion sensor acceleration threshold is the threshold at which the cursor movement will stop increasing speed. I can test that because the motion sensor acceleration isn't working. Motion sensor steadying amount will try to filter small gyro inputs, but not exactly in the way that other games would. Usually, this setting filters more small movements than big movements, making your aim super steady and clean. But as you can see from my gameplay, there is still a bit of noise. which is weird because controller vibrations don't seem to affect gyro that much, so it is filtering something, but again, not in the way that other games do. Motion sensor steadying threshold will set the size of the steadying window, so increasing this will cause bigger movements to be filtered. Motion sensor steadying transition duration will change how fast the gyro movements will stop. As you can see, the game camera keeps moving slowly, losing speed until it stops. I thought that this setting would make this unwanted continuous movement disappear because I'm telling the game to stop moving as soon as possible. But this setting also seems to be broken because that isn't the effect that I got. Honestly, I appreciate that the steadying options are here, but on my testing I just found some really bad and confusing results. For example, if I increase the steadying amount to the max value, small movements will be filtered, but after the threshold, the camera will just shoot itself. See, I'm not moving the controller and the camera keeps moving. It's like I'm throwing a ball and the ball just keeps going. I don't know how this is supposed to smooth things out or make things more steady when it's causing unwanted movement. I can't explain exactly what is happening here, but I can say, please, more than any other feature, fix the steadying on this game. I will go as far as to say that we don't need to change the transition duration or the threshold or anything like that. Just make it work like any other game. Honestly, while recording this video, I think it's best to leave the motion sensor steadying threshold quite high, but I can't confirm that. So the default settings are already good enough. So these are all the gyro settings that we have. But what is missing? Overall, this is a very solid gyro implementation. In fact, the whole controller in this game is incredible, not just the motion sensors. You can use the trackpads to navigate the map, mimicking the actions of your character. And you will need to constantly interact with things by using these button combinations, as if you were a kid in a spaceship pressing random imaginary buttons. It's so cool and immersive, I love it. But some key gyro features are missing. For example, this game doesn't have a gyro disable button. This is important so people can reposition their controllers in the middle of the game. So the only way to reposition the camera and the controller is by using the right stick. Hopefully, they can add this feature in the future, since the controller settings in this game are very extensive, letting you change things using long presses, double taps and other activators that you would see in something like Steam. Also, this game doesn't give you the option to hold the controller in different ways, so the game uses local space yaw mode, which means that while looking up or down, the only way to look sideways is to tilt the controller like a steering wheel. But this is a bit awkward. And what if you hold the controller differently? What if you lay down in bed and hold the controller upwards? Then you need to do this to look sideways instead of this. That's why we have the other gyro orientations, like world space and player space, to accommodate everyone in every position. What is here is good, but some players will be left out. A simple solution is to just add the option to change between yaw and roll mode, but the best solution is to implement player space orientation, so that players don't need to worry about changing those kind of settings. And lastly, there is no flick stick. Flick stick allows you to snap the camera to the exact angle that you pointed with the right analog stick. It's precise and reliable, but requires gyro because you won't be able to look up or down without it. Unfortunately, this option isn't available in this game, which is not a huge problem, but as you can see, I really enjoy playing with this control scheme. I don't want to end this video on a low note, but I did experience some bugs. For some reason, the game on PC didn't seem to register all my inputs. The camera movement had this jitter to it while using gyro, and a similar thing happened while walking around. It isn't super noticeable while playing, but it is noticeable on the ship, and if this happens on normal gameplay, it can be fatal. In conclusion, Helldivers 2 has a pretty solid control scheme and customization options, going even beyond most games by adding a good gyro implementation. Even though it could be improved, I totally recommend it. For more motion control games and tips, please leave a like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching!